Thanks, Chris. I'll start. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy that so many of you are here again today, and we'll talk to you, as Chris just highlighted, about future-focused program delivery in a slightly different version. Taking the feedback from last week, we are going to talk about more concrete examples so you can imagine better what we would like to do, of what we propose to you. Before we get going, I also wanted to remind everyone that I'm, from the Faculty of Arts as well, and we and many other people on campus like to critique things, and that's exactly why we are here. We want to hear what you have to say, and it would be best for us if you could formulate your critique in a way that comes out as a recommendation that we can actually take away and implement and expand and actually work with. So I really look forward to that. And before we get going, Leslie and I are up here with our pictures, but really we worked with a team of people: Sandra Davidson, the Dean of Nursing; Kate Hamilton, the Executive Director of the President's Office; Corey Hogan, our Senior Associate Vice President Communications; Christine John. Christine I already saw here. Christine is also here today. Our Senior Director for Academic and International Strategies; Sheila LeBlanc, Director of Continuing Education; Ange, our Registrar; and Richard Sigurdsson, the Dean of Arts; Robin Yates, Dean of Grad Studies. All of those were with us to define some kind of chicken that we can give to you, so you can tell us which part is the egg and which part is the chicken, and how should we go about implementing, moving this forward, and making more concrete some of the ideas we are going to present to you. Leslie, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Florentine. And it's great to be here. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to show up and listen and contribute. Just as a reminder, and I wanted to expand a little bit on what Chris said earlier about our commitment to Tapato, to reconciliation, our commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion, and to students and our student experience. I think there's no question this has been a theme. The theme I think I've heard in other sessions is, how are we showing that commitment, and how are we demonstrating that commitment? And I think it's a question we certainly will be asking ourselves today. I'm gathering and beyond to really figure out how we move forward in a good way, and in terms of honoring these commitments in a way that is deep and meaningful. Oops, there we go. And just a reminder, today we are here to listen and learn from each other, to critique, to analyze, from time to time, perhaps even share what is appreciated, or what is exciting to you about the proposals being brought forward. So we look forward to the discussion today. And as a reminder, there is a document that is up on the Growth Through Focus and Congress website. And what we want to share with you is a bit of the highlights of this document, and then move into questions and discussion about that. As Florentine mentioned, this document really is a chicken or an egg, but it is meant to be a trigger point for discussions. And so we really want to hold those discussions today. Over to you, Florentine.
Yes. So let me just say a little bit about why are we doing this. I think one of the impetus for this is really that we are thinking about, and that's where the name Future Focused comes from. Our learners and students are changing. Demographics are changing. different groups than before are seeking access to higher education. Students themselves, different generations are coming forward. I have a son who's in second year engineering, and many of those students learn almost exclusively on their cell phones these days, it seems. So COVID has changed how we are going to teach and learn, and has brought that to our attention as well. I think that teaching and learning is something that is ever changing. And I think COVID also is a good opportunity to think about how we can capitalize or be more systematic about some of those changes we are already working on and are implementing in a number of different ways. And these different ways are actually what we are going to present today. And I think that's all I'm going to say about those pieces, because we are going to get into the examples right away. And if you move us into the next slide, Leslie, we'll talk about modularizing of programs. We'll talk a little bit about micro-credentials, but all through examples. We'll talk about innovating current programs, developing new programs, and how different modalities can actually enhance the delivery of our programs in the future. Yeah, over to you, Les.
Awesome, thank you, Florentine. So, you know, you would have seen in the proposal, and what we wanted to share with you today are some examples of what we in the working group have talked about and explored around, you know, what makes up the elements of future focused programs at the University of Calgary, and how do we really capitalize on the great work we're already doing in areas and borrow from work happening, say, in the graduate space, and draw that into, you know, the undergraduate space and continuing in professional education space. And so we wanted to share with you what some of these elements are that we've been thinking about that make up, I would say, current programs, and what do we want to do more of in our future focus programs. And these are where words, you know, where we've heard, we're hearing in higher education, we're hearing in the sessions today around, you know, what are kind of unique and personalized learning opportunities? How do we bundle them? Where do micro-credentials fit in? Where do certificates fit in? When are they standalone? When are they stackable? And so we wanted to share with you some examples of what we're already doing and what we might grow. So, you know, I think it's important to also note, and we've certainly talked about this and know we need to talk more about the different learning experiences that we want to really grow are different, whether we're talking about graduate programs or undergraduate programs or continuing and professional education programs. And at the same time, we know we want to borrow and draw on some of the learnings in those spaces. So I want to start with an example of what a future focused program around in the undergraduate space could look like. How do we make these personalized learning experiences? How do we draw in some elements of micro-credentials or experiential learning into that? So here's an example of taking the BA in sociology. And what we want to ensure is that students have an opportunity throughout their program, and that's what those colored puzzle pieces are trying to represent. If the entire puzzle is the program, that early in a program, a student has an experience, maybe like the Emerging Leaders program, a co-curricular experience that in addition to the courses that they're taking it as part of their curriculum. They maybe as well later in their program have the opportunity to take on a study abroad experience and layer that into their skills development, help them apply new knowledge, ways of thinking and growing and seeing the world through an experience like that. And a summer research experience at another point in their program is another type of co-curricular micro-credential that they could layer on and maybe wrap up their degree with a community engagement project in a course they're taking in a capstone project. And so these are the types of ways in which we can continue to think and grow the undergraduate experience here at the University of Calgary. You know, another example of how we can think of future focused programs in the graduate space looks a little bit different. And this is continuing to build on our work around stackable certificates. And a great example here of the work that's happened is in nursing. So a series of standalone certificates now exist, which can also be stacked leading into a master's, a course-based master's of nursing. And so you can see there are 2 certificates here a learner could take with breaks in between, as many of our graduate students we know in this kind of space may also be working, leading up to a master's, and then layered on top of that, some professional learning through a standalone certificate offered through continuing and professional education. And then our standalone experiences we want to think about, these sorts of micro credentials. Here's an example in continuing education of a standalone learning experience where a student might take a digital marketing certificate. Or in the credit space, an example might be taking the university certificate in creative writing offered through the Faculty of Arts. And so these are ways in which we're thinking about what we're already doing and can build on that work and expand on that work. And the question we're also asking ourselves is in our working group is, how do we support that work? What is needed in terms of helping our units continue to build and grow their programs? Over to you, Florentine.
Yes, so as you could see, there is many things we already do, and by going more systematically about them, we can really do what is program innovation to enable our students and their changing needs and the changing generations coming forward to meet their learning needs and to understand what they need, how they want to learn, and how we can benefit them best as we send them out into an uncertain future and hopefully supply them or equip them with the skills and the foundations that they need to create what are not jobs yet and will be their future careers, you know. So the path forward is those are the kind of pieces that our working group discussed, is how can we help faculties to think about these changes that they may want to do to some, maybe not all of their programs in a constructive way. Well, there's help needed. And the first point here I'm going to talk about is the Program Innovation Hub. This is not a new thing. This is a building on many of the work that Christine Johns, and I know she's on the call today, our Senior Director for Academic and International Strategies, has been working on anyway to support faculties to change and innovate and develop new programs and how to move them forward. We are going to do this in a different way. This new Program Innovation Hub will draw on existing strengths that exist in the Faculty of Grad Studies and the Taylor Institute in continuing education in other places to draw in 3 different cycles on expertise as people come forward with an idea. That would be an ideation team coming together as people then develop and design a program or innovate parts of that program to get feedback on how do we design and engaging interactive online delivery course or an entire program or modules and so on. So that's, and then there's a third group of experts that will come together to help a program to market and roll out and actually implement those pieces. So we are drawing on expertise we already have to lend support to programs, faculty, units to do this kind of work should they wish to engage in it. We are still talking about incentive models for program development. Many of you are in faculties, and you know that the Faculty of Graduate Studies rolled out a small, not quite a grant program, but a grant program to actually engage people to develop new programs, innovative programs in the graduate space. And we're talking about other ways of moving that forward. There's also another piece we discussed, which is the government would like us to be larger universities to be more nimble in our course offerings, and think about that into the future. And all of what Leslie and I just presented shows how work we are already doing and how that could look like. But I think conversations are ongoing also on how then they need to do their part, of course, to approve new programs and innovative programs more quickly, so we can also be more nimble to what's needed and how the landscape out there is changing. Developing programs and recruiting new students through a targeted approach. I think willy-nilly, what we, change everything we have been doing that has been successful is probably not a good idea. I think we want to really look at what students want, what students not just want, but also what they need, and to figure out how we can cater to a changing student body. That's really what this point is about. And another piece I think is important too. We need to think about, I think COVID has really hammered home to us that we all need a strategy for online learning, that we need the platforms, the technology, the tools in place to think about online learning in a meaningful, proactive, and not just reactive way. And so those are the pieces that we need to have in place in order to move forward. And so over to Les, or was that still me? Sorry, forgot now what the order was. We just have one more slide. I think that, was this yours, Leslie, or mine? It doesn't really matter, I suppose. It's the timeline. There we are. We are going to start to work on all those pieces. Leslie, did you want to speak to that slide? You did last time.
Sure, I can speak to it. Yeah, I think as Florentine mentioned, how the program innovation renewal piece, the program innovation hub. I mean, this is building on ongoing work and ensuring the resources are in place to support program innovation. And so that will just continue and be ongoing. One of the pieces that we know we need, in not just at our institution, many institutions across this country, and in fact globally, are thinking about what is a micro-credential? How is it defined? What's that going to look like? And so one of the pieces we know we need to get going on is developing a micro-credential framework. And some of those conversations are happening provincially and nationally. We're a part of those conversations, and we know here at our institution, we need a framework that helps describe what these pieces look like. And we didn't talk much about it. It's a conversation that certainly needs to emerge after Congress and far beyond, but that's around, offering programs in multiple modalities. What do we need to really strengthen the support for teaching and learning online, for offering whole programs online, and for really moving into that space in a way that's long-term and sustainable? And so we've recognized the need for an institutional strategy for online learning and supporting blended learning in programs as well. And we'll need to get going on that work. And our timeline, we propose here to start getting going on that work coming this spring.